Greetings, everyone. My name is Gwen Uyanggurin, and I am the first reporter for the Group 1 presentation, which covers the topic the prenatal development. Let's start our discussion with asking what is prenatal development. In scientific basis, I have read a statement that the lives of the newborn babies had already been started since they are already 9 months old. And during those 9 months, inside the wombs of their mothers, they have already been starting to shape their own lives, which is part of the shortest, however, most important to life stages occur before their births. That is why, to observe their existing lives, we have what we call the prenatal development, which has its own stages also, and we were going to discuss that later on. And prenatal development is defined as the process of growth and development within the womb from fertilization until to birth. During this process, the zygote grows into an embryo and then a fetus, and that will be discussed inside the topics for its stages, and we will going to discuss it later and one by one. And now let us know what are the stages of prenatal development. The parts or stages of the prenatal development are the terminal, embryonic, and fetal stages that focuses the concept on the earliest of all human life stages. Now we will discuss first the germinal stage. Let's introduce first what is the germinal stage. A germinal stage is a development that is the first and the shortest of the stages of a human lifespan. And in germinal stage, it has four processes that are named the fertilization, cleavage, blastulation, and implantation. Remember that germinal stage involves several different processes, which we are going to discuss later, that changes an egg and sperm first into a zygote and then into an embryo. Let's discuss now first the fertilization, which part of the process of the germinal stage. In fertilization, during or after sex, many sperm will travel towards the egg due to the chemical attraction. However, only one sperm will succeed in fertilizing the ovum by penetration and sex. And after one sperm will succeed, the other sperm will not be able to enter the ovum any longer, and the ovum will reject the other sperm at the same time. Now, the fertilization occurs. The zygote remains in the fertilization tube for about 72 hours for the processing, and during that time, magdevelop na yan siya. There is another stage which derive into the cleavage. And by the second day after fertilization, the single-celled zygote undergoes mitosis to form two daughter cells, which they are divided already after the fertilization process. A mitosis is the process of cell division after the first week conception. So it's like an egg. The zygote divides and multiplies, going from a one cell structure to two cells and then multiplies. So there is one egg at first and then mag-divide siya for a separation for another process again na part siya sa cleavage. This mitosis continues to take place every 12 to 24 hours to produce the first four cells and so on. By the fourth day, we have the cold murula na siya, which inside the cleavage, there is a particular cells na nagpa-process inside those zygote, which we have gone down to look for this early mitotic division we call the cleavage process in germinal stage. Although cleavage results in more cells, the overall mass cells making the up to the morula is still the same size as the initial zygote because the cells are confined within the Zora Zora pelisuda. I don't know the right pronunciation for this, but it is called the pellucida. Zora pellucida. I'm sorry. And the Zora pellucida is a thick, transparent membrane that protects embryos during development. So it's like uh, a particular cell that protects the egg for not to be destroyed and to be more safe. And after the process of our plastylation in the part of germinal stage, we have go down now the last process of germinal stage, which is the part of implantation. So in day 8 or 9 after fertilization, the implantation begins now. This is a process in which a blastocyst becomes embedded of the uterus. So if there is here the uterus, there is a ball that comes into this uterus and then mag-embed siya. So it means mag-embed, mag-enter dyan siya for the other process or the other stage of the pregnancy. Like this is the ball and it embeds with the uterus sa babae. It goes down for another process. But here in implantation, the endometrium is a large part of the tissue that lines the uterus. So it's like this is the endometrium, or the part of the uterus of a woman, and there is this blastocyst. It goes down here and embed the part of our uterus. So girls know what is um, endometrium, I think. And here in the implantation, it can trigger by contact between the blastocyst and the endometrium. So if it goes down to embed the uterus, mag-trigger yan siya. So they would attach to each other, that the trophoblast cells start to proliferate, secreting enzymes covering the endometrium. So the enzymes there is like an energy. It's like a vitamins or the food intakes from a woman's body. So it goes down like an energy. These changes allow finger-like projections called villi of the trophoblast to penetrate into the endometrium. It's like there is some kind of cells na to adapt the endometrium or the blastocyst to apply into this kind of endometrium. The projections also pull the blastocyst now called an embryo. So the process of our embryo here it comes, but the discussion will be later na lang. Into the endometrium until it is fully covered by endometrial epithelium. It's like a cell na nag-cover siya to make it safe. And now the stage of the embryonic na to discuss the following reporter na. And that ends my part. Let's go down for the next reporter.
Good day everyone, I am Stephanie Simulino and today I am going to discuss about the embryonic period or development, which is the second development during the prenatal period. So what does it mean when we say embryonic? So when we say embryonic, this means that it is the early stage of the development, and in the prenatal development, it means that the baby is at its early stage of development, and this development pertains to the development of the organs. Embryonic period. So the beginning of third week after conception marks a starting point of the embryonic period, wherein the mass of cells becomes distinct to human. And so what does it mean when we say conception? So when we say conception, it means that the sperm cells fertilize an egg cell, or they will merge together and they will form this what we call zygote, and this zygote will turn later into this what we call embryo. So after the zygote divides into for about 7 to 10 days, it will produce at these days, this zygote will produce 150 cells, and this zygote will travels down the fallopian tube and it will implant itself into the lining of the uterus. So the embryonic period starts when this zygote or this fertilized egg implants itself in the mother's uterus. So when we say implant, it means that it is attached itself in the uterine wall. So this normally occurs at the second week of pregnancy, and thus this embryonic period will start at the third week of pregnancy and will end at the eighth week of pregnancy. So this means that this embryonic period will only last for 5 weeks. So prior to the embryonic development, the zygote experiences cell division to produce cell, which will eventually becomes into different body parts. So through the zygote, through cell division and production, it will now become into a what we call this embryo. So as the embryo develops, this organized ball of cells will start to develop into different body parts or organs like brain, the central nervous system, and the peripheral nervous system. So during this development of the embryo, it couldn't grow or develop without the help of this what we call extra embryonic membranes. So this extra embryonic membranes plays a vital role in supporting the growth or development of this embryo, and it plays a different parts to help the growth and development of this embryo. So what are these extra embryonic membranes? So the first one is the yolk sac, and we have this chorion, the allantois, and amnion. So this yolk sac is the first membrane to appear. So before the placenta takes over, the yolk sac is the one who provides the nutrients and the gas exchange between the mother and the uterus. And next is this chorion. It is a membrane between the mother and uterus, and it is formed by two layers, the trophoblast and the mesoderm. The function of chorion is that it protects to nurture the embryo. So it produces chronic fluid that protects the embryo by absorbing shocks originating from forces such as movements. And it also produces the chorionic villi, which helps to nurture the embryo. So the third one is the allantois. It helps in gas exchange, and it handles the liquid waste from developing organ. So it is involved to the formation of umbilical cord. This umbilical cord is the one who connects the baby to the mother. It is the lifeline of the baby, and it is the one who supply the nutrients. And then the last one is the amnion. So this amnion membrane is formed from the mesoderm and the ectoderm. So it produces amniotic fluid that allows free movements of the fetus. So it is the covering of the fetus. It is the one that protects the fetus and serve as the cushion from the potential injury. So the mother can freely move without compromising the health of the baby, because this amnion will help the baby will help the baby or protect the baby from the possible injuries. And now let us proceed to the embryonic development. So it comes down with four development: the germinal stage, the gastrulation, the neurulation, and the organogenesis. So, because germinal stage, though it is not part of the embryonic period, but still it is included in the embryonic development, since it is the starting point of everything. It is when the zygote develops at this stage. That's why it is included in this embryonic development. So let us now proceed to this gastrulation, which is the main development of this embryonic development. This gastrulation is a stage during prenatal development when the germ layers are formed. It forms in the 3 weeks following and lasts for approximately 2 weeks. So the germ layers It is a group of cells that will disaggregate into which part of the cells will become into a organs, or this what we call the tissues. And what are these germ layers? So we have this ectoderm, the mesoderm, and the endoderm. The ectoderm is the outermost germ layer, so it contains cells that will eventually become into brain, skin, nervous system, the mouth, the nasal cavity, and the sensory organs. So the second one is this mesoderm. So it is the middle germ layer, and it is the larger so it gives rise to the skeletal system, the muscular system, the bone marrow, and epithelium of urinary and cardiovascular system. And the last one is the endoderm, which is the innermost germ layer that contains cells which will become into gastrointestinal, that which will become into gastrointestinal tract, respiratory tract, the reproductive organs, and the urinary bladder. So let us now proceed to the second development during this embryonic development, which is the murulation. So it will takes into 3 to 4 weeks after fertilization. So the embryo develops structures that will eventually become into a nervous system, and it will form a neural tube, which will eventually becomes a spinal cord, and then later turn into a brain. And then the last one is the organogenesis. It is the most organs started to develop during the stage, during this embryonic stage, or uh, during the third week, and it will end at the 8 weeks. So it will takes into 5 weeks to form these organs in the body. And so during this organogenesis, the first organ to develop is the heart, or the heart is the first functional organ to develop and to function. Around 21 to 22 days, it will eventually pump blood that will give rise to give oxygen. So the overall fully formation of the organs will happen at the last stage, which is the fetal stage. And this report ends here. Thank you so much.
Good day everyone, I am Nervis Pusta, and today I will be discussing about the fetal period 2 to 7 months after conception. So when the organism is about 9 weeks old, the embryo is now called the fetus. At this stage, the fetus is about the size of a kidney bean and begins to take on the recognizable form of a human being as the tail begins to disappear. The fetus continues to gain weight and grow in length until approximately 40 weeks. By then, the fetus has very little room to move around and birth becomes imminent. The internal organs such as the lungs, heart, stomach, and intestines have formed enough that a fetus born prematurely at this point has a chance to survive outside of the mother wombs. So, fetal stage, so after the embryonic period has ended, at the end of the week of pregnancy, the embryo is now called a fetus. So a fetus is a developing baby beginning in the 11th week of pregnancy. So this stage extends in the 11th week of pregnancy from beginning of the 9th week after fertilization to about 38 weeks after fertilization. So which is the average time of birth. So this development marks more important changes in the brain. So this stage is marked by amazing change and growth. So 9 weeks fetal stage begins. So in 9 months or 3 months, 9 to 12 weeks from embryo to fetus. So the 8 weeks of pregnancy marks the beginning of the fetal stage. So when the fetal stage is fully formed with all organs and extremities in place, so at this stage, the circulatory and urinary system begin to function and bones begin to form. So the umbilical cord is also fully functional, supplying the baby with oxygen. So at week 12, the fetus is 2 inches, weighs 2 ounces, about the size of a small lime. Just imagine na lang unsa kadakpang ng limonsito. So ingana pa ang 3 months or 9 to 12 weeks. 4 months. So in 12 weeks or 4 months, the doctor can possibly determine the sex of your baby, whether it's a male or female. So through an ultrasound. So a baby is about the size of a large avocado. So a large avocado, this one. So around 7 inches long, og dili po siya months magsugod og sipa-sipa. So in 16 weeks or 5 months, this month, the fetus starts to grow hair on the head, along with a fine hair covering of fetus well inside the uterus. So it helps to protect them and keeps them warm while they grow. So at 20 weeks, the fetus is 10 long and 10 ounces. So mura pa siyang large banana kataas. So in 20 weeks or 6 months, the fetus is developing fingerprints, eyes, hearing, ear organs, and lungs. So at the 6 months, the fetus is about a foot long and weighs 1.3 pounds, about the size of an ear of corn. Yes. So in 7 months or weeks 25 to 28, the fetus continues to develop and grow fat reserves. So by now, their sense of hearing is fully developed and they can respond to light sounds and in pain. By the end of the 7th month, your baby weighs as about 2 to 3 pounds and measures 15 inches long. So just imagine the bowling pin nga nakataas ang 7 months nga fetus. So in 8 months, weeks 29 to 32, this month, the fetus will shed the lanogo. So this provides an important source of protein with it when it is swallowed with the amniotic or amniotic fluid is a water. So amniotic fluid is a water-like substance surrounding the fetus in your uterus. So it contains nutrients, hormones, antibodies, and other fluids to keep healthy and protected. So baby could reach 18 inches and 5 pounds by 8 months. So imagine na lang yung ang 4 soda cans, that's equal to 18 inches long. So yung anak ko ang 8 months fetus. So lastly is the 40 weeks or the 9 months, 9 months to 10. So in the final weeks of pregnancy, baby's develop is progressing rapidly. So with the lungs mature and fat reserves stored up and their reflexes becoming coordinated, they can make movements such as blinking, turning the head, grasping, and also they reach their mature size in the last month of pregnancy, ranging from 6 to 9 pounds and 9 to 21 inches. And that could be all. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Criza Joy Garcia Monton, and I am here to discuss the beginning of embryonic stage. So we have here the uterine cavity. The uterine cavity is the space located inside the uterus. It is one of the most important elements of the female reproductive system because it aids in fertilization, sustaining the unborn fetus, and delivery. So we have here the figure of uterine cavity. We have the uterine cavity, the fallopian tube, the ovary, the myometrium, the endometrium, the serosa, the cervix, and the vagina. Next is the uterine lining. The uterus has a muscular outer layer called the myometrium and an inner lining called the endometrium. So here is the figure of the uterine lining. We have the uterus. The uterine lining and unfertilized egg are shed during the menstruation. Next is blastocyst. A blastocyst is a cluster of dividing cells made by a fertilized egg. It's the early stage of an embryo. A blastocyst is one step among many that lead to a pregnancy. A blastocyst forms about 5 to 6 days after a sperm fertilizes an egg. So we have here the figure of blastocyst. We have blastocele, the pellucid zone, the trophoblast, and the internal cell mass. Yolk sac. A yolk sac is a structure that develops inside your uterus during early pregnancy. It provides an embryo with nourishment, for example, food. It helps circulate gases because between you and the embryo. The yolk sac also produces cells that turn into important structures, such as the umbilical cord, the blood cells, and reproductive organs. We have here the figure of yolk sac from because we can find the yolk sac of a mother. We have here the yolk sac of the fish, the reptiles, birds, and the mammals. Next is the embryo. Early stage in development of humans and other animals or plants. In animals that have backbone or spinal column, this stage lasts from shortly after fertilization until all major body parts appear. This is the figure of the embryo. As you can see, this is a baby here, covered with like a cellophane from the baby is covered, and I think there's water inside it. And the next one is amniotic sac. Amniotic sac is the fluid-filled sac that contains and protects a fetus in the womb. Here it is. We have the amniotic sac, the placenta, the umbilical cord, and the amniotic fluid. And we have here the bladder. So dito naiipon yung ihi yung ihi na nilalabas natin. So next is the colon. The diameter of the lumen of the small bowel and colon increases as gestational age increases. So the fetal small bowel lumen rarely exceeds 6 mm in diameter, and fetal colon lumen diameter rarely exceeds 23 mm. Or small bowel peristalsis can be seen with increasing frequency with increasing gestational stage. So the vagina is the inside passage to the cervix and uterus. It receives the penis during the sex and serves as the birth canal during the childbirth. It is where the babies come out. So here is the image of the vagina. We have the clitoris, the vulva, and the vagina. So I think that's the end of our report and my discussion. So I hope you learned something from it. And bye and have a good day.